I am deserving, I am qualified, I'm empowered, I'm enough. And saying that in the mirror is really helpful. Even if you're not saying it in the mirror, like just like saying it out loud, it's just like something about the vibrations always like kind of get me in alignment.
Welcome to the Evolve Podcast, an open forum on personal growth and cultivating a positive mindset. I'm your host, Joe Fitzpatrick. Today on the show, we have Kenda Elise Fields. Kenda Elise Fields is actively growing, learning, and evolving. A mother of two, Kenda describes her life as a case study on growth and miracles. Kenda is best known as the CEO and content and messaging strategist of Co., a marketing agency she founded in 2017. Kenda elevates the social presence of brands across various industries using the agency's signature communication strategy. Kenda partners with business owners to build engaged online communities designed to grow and evolve with their clients. Kenda guides founders in creating and sharing their origin stories that connect with their desired audience. Kenda specializes in areas of health, beauty, and wellness in creating a cohesive online presence through creative communication. Let's go. Kenda, welcome to the Evolved Podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here as well. So we met about a year ago. We were working together on a project for one of your clients at the time, the Beatbox.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed getting to know you and the owners of that business. But we've talked after that about, potentially collaborating together. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better and collaborating with you on this project. So before we get started, can you please just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do for a living, and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, so my name is Kenda Fields. I am originally from the DC, Maryland area. I grew up in Tacoma Park, Maryland, went to school in the South, and then I came up here to Richmond about 4 or so years ago. I really love it here. Right now I work as the director of social media storytelling for a well-known university here in the city. And I also have my agency, Co., which I've run for the last 6 years, and we specialize in helping small businesses tell their stories online, on Instagrams, all social media, websites, newsletters, like wherever you want to tell your story. I teach you how to break that down so that it makes sense and how to connect with your tribe. So yeah, that's what I do.
And I know you work largely with women business owners and people of color business owners. Would you say that's your audience that you connect with the most as a woman of color yourself?
Yeah, so when I first got into this business, I was actually working at an agency based out of London, and it was a global agency. So I got to work for a lot of like really great big brands, and that's where the money is working with brands that have like the budget. I worked with a company called Black and Green, which is a online marketplace that sells non-toxic products that are made by Black women. And when I was working on that project, I learned a lot of like statistics and stats about like how minority-owned businesses often don't have access to capital and don't have the same resources as other other people. And so what I working with them, it made me say, hey, I really have like the skill that has really helped this company who has the resources. What if I took that and I did that for businesses who don't really have all the resources or just starting out? So my strategy kind of is foundational, where it gives you what you need. You'll see that I usually only work with people for like 3 to 6 months. The longest is probably about a year. And that's because what I'm doing is I'm giving the foundation that you need to be able to compete in the marketplace. So I would say I do primarily work with minority owned businesses. And that's the reason why, is just because they don't have the access, and to be able to compete in the marketplace is really important if you want to get into like Target and Walmart, like some of my customers have been able to get.
Yeah, that's really great that you're able to do that and, provide access to those people who, may not be aware of those services, and to help them tell their stories. I read on your Instagram and on your website that you help owners craft their origin stories. Can you tell me more about that?
So I noticed that a lot of small business owners feel that they may have like a wonderful idea, but not think that it's fantastic enough, or there's nothing within their story that can help them promote their business. And so
Mhm.
what I am able to do is we deep dive and just get into how you started. Because a lot of times, if you just tell how you started or what might have happened when you were a kid that like influenced it, those are the stories that you can tell on social media to really nurture your audience and connect. Because a lot of times people are really just looking for connection, especially on social media. I think in the age of content creators and influencers, I think a lot of people are apprehensive to share their stories because they don't have like the perfect YouTube or Instagram home, or they don't have the right clothes, or they
Yeah.
don't have the things that make a content creator or influencer. But I like to go back to the days of when Facebook first started, when I was in college and you needed like an EDU address to even get on Facebook, and how we were telling our stories, just sharing tidbits. Like that's all it is. And it's turned and kind of like evolved into something where it's a machine instead of really connecting with the heart of who we are and what moves us and what connects with us. And so I think it's just really, really important to look at your origin story and what led you to where you are, to be able to help you craft the vision for where you're going. So that's kind of how I use the origin story for people.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's so important for people to connect with the values of what the brand represents, especially now. Our economy has become much more socially conscious than it was in the past. And, um, you know, there's more transparency there with people being so accessible through social
Yeah.
media, and being able to connect with consumers and potential clients directly through, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever social media platform, and really to share that story and make it shareable,
Yeah.
and something that is interesting and captivating, that attracts those potential clients. And
Yeah.
um, we live in a space where everything is very visual, and needs to be captivating in order to maintain people's attention spans.
Yeah.
But at the root of it is like the why behind it. It's, why are they even there? Like,
Yeah.
who are they? What are they about? And you know, even though social media is a big driver and all of that, um, I think those core values are still really important, um,
Yeah.
whether we recognize them consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah, I think you do a really good job of that. It's just like telling the story and being transparent about the journey, and not, you really don't hold back in terms of like the struggles that you have gone through to get to like certain areas in your life, specifically with like the weight loss journey, going vegan, and like you are able to really see like a track record of sharing. And that is what storytelling is about, because someone is going to land with it. Even if everyone does not land with your story for whatever reason, the right people will, because you're open and honest enough to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the core of my communication throughout the years. It's definitely developed over time, but one like quote that like always comes to mind when I think about sharing my story is vulnerability breeds
Mhm.
vulnerability. You create that safe space by sharing of yourself so that others can feel more comfortable sharing of themselves. So
Right.
that's definitely one of my core values. Just finding strength in vulnerability. Um, I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
But I want to talk a little bit about you, more about you and like how you got started. So before we get into that, I saw that you recently rebranded your Instagram from your name to
Oh.
Young Kefa, and I was wondering what that was about.
So it's two parts. One is privacy. So the whole time that I've had Instagram, at least when I have started my agency, I had a business account or like a creator's account.
Right.
And I had a health scare earlier this year that kind of took me out for a while, and it really forced me into like a period of rest. And it had me like look at my life and how I operate. And I realized I don't want to, if I need to practice what I preach about, telling those stories. And I
Yeah.
realized that I wanted to do it. I had to break it down at the personal level and have a personal account and just not try to be in the vein of, oh, I'm a content creator, I'm creating this content and I'm going to, I need these followers and go to my list and all those things.
Mhm.
Those are important. Those are important things. But where I am in my life right now, it's not about Kenda the brand or Kef and Co the brand right now. It's really just about like making those connections and doing it like in an organic way and taking away kind of the lens of having to be a content creator or influencer. And so
Right.
yeah, I'm just keeping it private and connecting with people, like people who, send me messages if I don't, or like a friend request if I don't know you. I'm not answering them right now just because I'm really trying to cultivate the audience that I have when I'm ready, because I'm not even posting. And the word Young Kefa, my brother-in-law actually, they all call me Kefa because my initials are Kef, and then they'll be like Kefa, Young Kefa, what up, Young Kefa, So it's a kind of like a family joke type thing that I put in there.
I like it. Yeah. And it like I think it's humbling too because it reminds yourself, you're still young in certain aspects and um
Yeah,
we don't know everything and it's important to not get, too big for our britches, so to speak, and
yeah,
remember there's still more to learn about life.
yeah. And then I'm a person, not
Yeah.
a brand, not a brand. And I know that some people will say, you are your brand, which I agree with, but I was operating as like an entity, and it did not feel good to my soul. So
Yeah, I know what you mean. For a long time, I didn't want to like represent the like creative work I was doing. I felt uncomfortable, calling it like Joe Fitzpatrick, whatever.
mhm,
Um, I did have my like photography business. It was very like scrappy and like more of like a hobby passion project, but I tried to have a business with it. And I call it Joe Fitz Photography.
yeah,
But then someone who I was like working with to help build a website was like, maybe you shouldn't call it Joe Fitz Photography because you could do more than just photography. And
mhm,
I sort of like followed that for a little bit, but then I returned to Joe Fitz Photos for like my branding because it just felt more right with like what I do choose to pursue. And photography, has multiple elements. Like
yeah,
someone who films and lights, you know, films and videos, like they call themselves a director of photography.
yeah,
So I try and like take a multi like dimensional type of like identity to it, and
yeah,
it's just something that resonates with me. um
yeah. And
so
that's what I love, because I feel like, there's so many things out there in terms of like the way that it works. And it's really just finding what works for you, what connects with you, what moves you, what makes you feel good, we all have our reasoning. One of the things that helps me is like realizing that everyone has had so many different experiences that when they're presented with information, they're presenting it in line with whatever experience they have. So you and I could be looking at a picture of an apple and we're like just taking in the apple completely different just because of the way that we were raised. And so that's another thing, like with storytelling, is that you're just able to tell whatever version of the story however you want to tell it, name yourself, be like authentically as you can, without the lens of other people. And that has been very freeing for me. And so I love how like that guy, he told you, hey, maybe you should change it to this way. And you're like, I'm going to change it to what makes sense for me and like where I'm going or what I'm doing. Because I think it could work either way. Joe Fits Photos, whether you have your photography studio and your photography business, or Joe Fits Photos, because these are literally Joe Fits Photos that are going to be on Instagram. So
yeah. And it took a while for me to get there. I had some other brands that I ran. I had a music blog for a while called Dominion Collective. And I like did articles and photos under that brand. Then when I started getting more into video, I created a brand called Path to Life. And I did that for a few years, but then I started to try and make more personalized content, more about me. And I think that's sort of what led me to starting this podcast, so I could share more about myself, but also still connect with other people and share more about their stories. That's always been something that's really fascinated me, just getting to hear about different people's experiences. And this, I guess, starting in 2019, I started contributing to a video series with my friend Jamal, who lives in Long Beach, California, for his organization, the Department of Public Goods and Services. And we were connecting with different creative people of color specifically, in different disciplines, both in the Long Beach, Los Angeles area and Richmond, since he was out there and I'm here. And I've done a few videos for that series. And it was really interesting hearing from other creative professionals in different industries, in terms of like how they relate to being creative and what their experiences have looked like. So this is like a continuation of that, just trying to provide more representation from different types of people about what their personal growth experiences have been like, in addition to my own.
Yeah, I love it. I think you need to see different people in different stages of life to like, motivate and like know that it's possible, to live a creative life and that it can look different in many different ways. So I love that.
So you started your business in 2017, but what was life like prior to that? Like, did you study marketing in college? Did you go to college?
Yeah. So I did go to college. I started out in mass communications. And so my track was actually to be a broadcast journalist. I did radio while I was in college and I wanted to like move into TV journalism. And I went to a small Christian college, very conservative. And so I got pregnant with my oldest daughter when I was 14, or not when I was 14, she's 14 now. I got pregnant with my oldest daughter when I was in college, my junior year. And so I had to kind of switch paths and go into business. And I really didn't think that I would ever get into communications again. I worked at Verizon Wireless, as like a, customer service support, but I never thought that I could get back into it because I was like, okay, I'm a mom. I'm not going to be able to, that's what I was thinking at the time because I was young. And so my daughter was 5 and she had some issues with school. And so I decided to pull her out and homeschool her. And I needed to work from home in order to do that. And this was back in the day before way before COVID, where work from home jobs were like luxurious. Like if you get to work from home, like that, that's what you do. It wasn't common. And I did, more call center work. And then I started looking for other things that moved me, because I was like, okay, I can't, yes, I'm getting a paycheck, but I want to like do something with like my degree. And I also want to do something in communication. So I stumbled across an organization, or not an organization, an agency in the UK called The Social Element. And I had done some little freelance projects prior to that, like in marketing, but nothing long term. And so I was concerned, maybe they wouldn't take me, but they gave me a couple of sample projects to do before I actually got hired. And I got hired. And I say that was like baptism by fire into all things marketing, because we were working with like major, wireless companies, alcoholic beverage companies. I don't think I can name them, but naming all these things. And I was working on engagement on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and talking to them. And I really stood out because I was young. A lot of the people that were there are from all over the country or all over the world. And a lot of the accounts that we worked with were US based. And so there was like a lot of nuances in the English language, or like from the American side, in terms of like, slang terms and things like that, cultural things that they just did not know. And so me coming in and, being tapped into the culture, just like as a Black woman, I really got to like shine. And so that really is how I got my start. And I eventually wanted more leadership. I wanted to be a team lead. I wanted to, run my own accounts. And at the time, they told me that wasn't possible. And I took offense to it, because I was always pulled in to help with these, special projects and all these things. Like, we want Kenda's opinion, we want this insight. But when it came to giving me that actual, not necessarily credit, but just giving me an opportunity to show what I could do on my own without having to be like under a brand manager, that wasn't something that was available. And so someone within the organization said, hey, you should get an internship, show that you can do something so you can build a portfolio, and then, maybe you'll be able to get it. So I ended up working with a woman by the name of Sheila Marie. She's a meditation guru, and it was really early on. There was a time, well, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but there was like a time where Black women did not really care for themselves. And when I say that, I mean self-care. Self-care was foreign like 2017. It wasn't something, I don't want to say foreign, I want to say it was not mainstream. Like, the tools weren't out there, people weren't talking about it. So she had emerged as someone to say, hey, it's okay to rest, it's okay to meditate, like, here's yoga, here's all these things that can really help you, navigate life as a Black woman. And so she had a company called Curvy Curly Conscious, and they basically created self-care days for women to come, women of color, Black women and women of color, to come and just be there and not have to worry about all the stuff out in the world. And I loved it. And because I identified and I connected with the message, I mean, we just blew up the Instagram account. And so when I started, it was 400. And we made it, by the time I left, about a year later, it was like 16K that we were able to do. Completely sold out the completely sold out the tour, because we did like a 4-city self-love tour, and women, like, there would be like 75 to 150 women, yoga, music. It was just wonderful. And we did that without ad spend, nothing. And so I was like, okay, look what I've done. I laid everything out, brought it back to the people at my agency, and still nothing. So then I was frustrated. I told, Sheila, I was just like, I'm really frustrated. This is a really great company to work for. And so she started telling her friends about me. And literally from there, I just got not so many clients, but just like, for someone who was just starting out and wasn't really, just trying to have an internship so she could go back to the agency, the people who were reaching out to me, it allowed me to build an agency because of the work that I had. So eventually I ended up leaving the agency that I was working for before, starting my own. And I'm blessed to have never had to advertise. Everything has been by word of mouth, and it has been steady, heading up until like around the pandemic time, steady all the way through. So I'm really, really blessed with the path that has happened. It was very difficult. It was not easy. There was like a lot of hard conversations, a lot of late nights, early mornings. And really up until my health scare, the late nights and early mornings did not end. And, that's one of the things that has made it so that I'm looking for like more balance. But yeah, that's how I got into it.
Hey guys, brief pause in the episode to tell you about some of the great businesses that support this podcast. First, we got Weight Train. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 10% off all Weight Train and Athleticity gym gear and apparel. No matter what you need for your workouts, they have the gear to help you get it done. And if you don't see something you want, email them at team@weighttrain.com and they will take your requests for new products. Visit Weight Train for all your gym gear needs. Next is True Nutrition. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 5% off all nutrition supplements. I'm personally a fan of their soy isolate vegan protein powder, available in a variety of flavors and strengths, from light to heavy. They also have non-vegan protein powders if that's not your thing. I personally recommend the cinnamon bun and toasted coconut flavors in the heavy strength, and I add them to waffles, oatmeal, protein shakes, and ice cream. They're delicious. Check out their wide range of supplements at affordable prices that are third-party tested and verified for content quality. They are able to provide such great prices because the supplements come direct from the manufacturer without any marketing gimmicks or fancy labels. Visit truenutrition.com to supplement your workouts and your nutrition. Last is Hate Brand Goods. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 15% off all Hate Brand clothing and accessories. Their goat shorts and shirts are the most comfortable clothing I've ever worn, and they have the coolest designs. However, their clothing drops are only available in limited quantities, so get your favorites while you can, and be on the lookout for other drops that you're stoked on. Visit thehate.com, spelled HVIII, for clothing to remind the world that you're not dead yet and you're ready to kick today in the dick. Back to the show. Sounds like a lot of growth, a lot of frustration, as I can imagine.
Yeah.
Showing the agency that you were working with, like what great potential that you have, and your willingness to do that type of thing for them, but not getting that response that you were hoping for. I can relate to that very much so with trying to make moves into a different job with the company that I currently work for, that I've been working for almost 6 years. And I've struggled to get into a job that I actually enjoy doing. I am starting to see some developments now that are more promising. So, fingers crossed that that does go well. But yeah, it's hard when you are showing your worth in different ways, but it's not always well received.
Yeah. And you have to know when to like let go and just say, like, there's only so many times that you can tell someone. There's only so many times. And if they're just not listening or are not receptive to what you're able to receive, that's your decision time. That's like, am I going to stay and accept what they're telling me? This is as far as I can go, or am I going to leave and try to forge a path? And I always say rejection is protection, because the rejection is preparing you for something else, something bigger. All the times that I've gotten no's, the yes that I got around the corner was so much more spectacular and so much bigger than I could have imagined. So now when I get rejection, whether it's from, a potential client, a friend, anything, I'm just like, oh, okay, I got it. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know, because that's my signal, like something else is coming. So.
Yeah, and that's a great perspective too, because you're protecting your own mental health from not getting attached to the negative circumstances, but you're choosing to let those go because you have that awareness that, you're creating space for better opportunities to come along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Sure.
Are you willing to talk about what your mental health scare was and like what happened there?
Yeah, so it was a physical health, but I
Okay,
guess
how about that?
kind of mental too, because I would say I 100% believe that the mental trauma or anguish, anxiety that had like stored in your body. There's this book that my therapist recommended that I keep on putting off reading, but it's called Your Body Keeps Score. And so some of the things that you experience can like be stored in different places in your body. And
Yeah.
so I wasn't really taking care of myself. Like I did not take time from the moment that things took off in 2000. Well, it started to take off in like 2018 to May of this year. I was just going, no vacations, like 4 to 5 hours of sleep. Not all the time, but like, just like really not taking care of myself, drinking, not Adderall was a thing that I used, not recreationally. I have ADHD, but the amount that I was taking was a lot. Man, this is the first time I talked about this publicly. So I'm glad that you like asked, besides giving like little hints and stuff like that on social media, like I haven't really shared, but just not taking care of myself, not getting outside. There was times where, so my kids, like they go to their grandparents' house for the summer, that whole summer, just work mode, not going outside. There would be days, like if I did not have dogs, there were days that I would not even go outside if I did not have dogs, because like they're my saving grace. They have been my saving grace, them and my kids. Yeah, like
I don't have kids,
responsibility.
but I do have a dog, and she helps me get outside, a few times during the workday. And just
Yeah.
that like, 10 to 15-minute break walking around the block is so
Yeah, it does wonders because your body like needs that movement. And I just wasn't
helpful.
moving, wasn't staying hydrated, wasn't really eating well. And I had food poisoning. Or what I thought was food poisoning. This was like on a Friday night. I thought I had food poisoning. And for 7 days, I was just grappling with it, because that's another thing. I would hold on to pain and I wasn't even aware. I'd be like, okay, well, it's fine. I'll just push through it. So the
Yeah.
level of pain that I was experiencing, I was like just completely blocking out of my mind. Like I was just like, whatever. And so by the 7th day, my husband was like, you know what? We need to go to the ER. Like, let's go to the ER. Like you dealt with this for long enough. So we ended up going to urgent care. They could not hear anything in my abdomen at all. Like normally when you put a stethoscope, you should be able to hear like movement. There was no type of movement or anything. So he said, immediately you need to go to the hospital. Or you need to go to a women's hospital. They did a CAT scan and no one was telling me what was going on until like the actual doctors were there. So there was like about 2-3 days that I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I had to stay in the hospital. And because I came in on like a Friday. And so the weekend passed, the doctors came in, they were like, we've never seen anything like this in 22 years. And so basically what happened is so women have 2 ovaries, or biological women have, like 2 ovaries. One ovary had died and was leaking fluid into my body. There's like intestines, there's a bladder, there's like all these things here. They were twisted around it, in addition to there being huge growths on my ovaries. And so it was just one big mass. And so they didn't even know what they were looking at. They just knew that they had to go in and figure out what was going on and then see what would happen. And so, I was just like, whoa, what? Like, this is crazy. Like there's stuff, septic fluid, leaking into my blood. And that's when I started to feel the pain once they told me what happened, because I had been pushing it out the whole time. So I was like, it's okay. I can handle it. It's fine. And then once that happened, it was just like, oh my goodness. Like I felt these things that like some of the symptoms that they were talking about, I had felt them, but I pushed them away. And so I'll never forget one of the nurses, before I was going to go into surgery, I was on my laptop because I still hadn't really learned my lesson. I was still trying to like talk to my clients and all of that.
Yeah.
And she was like, you're supposed to be here to rest. She was just like, if you do not rest the night before your surgery, it can cause complications. She was like, if you do not rest afterwards, this is the least of your worries, what has happened to you, because recovery is required as well. You have to rest. And I literally was like, I don't know what resting looks like. I literally do not know what it looks like. So I ended up, surgery was successful. They took one ovary. They didn't have to take anything else. So like, I was happy because I wanted to keep my uterus. I don't plan on having kids, but it was really important to me. And I rested. I watched Handmaid's Tale. I like, you know, they had me like on a little schedule where the nutrition people, the dietary people call and like, hey, what do you want for lunch? And so I was like making decisions that I wasn't making for myself. Like there was times where I would not eat throughout the day, and then late at night, you know, I'm just eating something like really fatty, really bad for me because like I hadn't eaten all the time. So I just wanted my cravings because I wasn't dealing with my internal shit because I was just, oh,
no, it's fine.
okay. Yeah. So I just wasn't dealing with my stuff. And so I started to say, okay, Kenda, I had to ask myself, like, what do you want? What do you need? Because these nurses were asking me, but I didn't know. And so the 2 weeks that I was there, and then the subsequent time after that, I took off 3 months of work, which would have never, I mean, come on, like,
right.
Unfathomable that I would take off that amount of time. And I just had to rebuild. What do I want? What do I want my days to look like? What is nourishing to my body? Are you in pain right now? Are you tired right now? These are things I never checked in with myself. And so I always say, it was very horrific that this had to happen. It was very unexpected, but at the same time, it really helped me to pivot personally, to really realize and see like what is important. And yeah, it's health and family for me right now. Like that's really health, family, and ease. That's like really all I want to care about right now.
Whew.
Yeah, that was a lot. I know.
I appreciate you sharing all of that. That's quite the load to carry, you know, and I appreciate your vulnerability with, you know, being open to sharing that with me. Gosh. So like, what did they say? Like, if you like let it go on any longer, like,
oh
what
yeah,
of you dying?
The chances were pretty high. The fact that there was septic fluid, or that it was necrotic, it was dead and it was seeping into my bloodstream. Yeah, like it could happen at any moment. So like I had already started feeling kind of like weak and fatigued for a while before then, but again, I was like pushing through. And so that was like my body kind of like shutting down, because that type of stuff is not supposed to be in your body, and your body's going to do everything it can to keep you alive. And so if that means rejecting something that is in your body, it's going to reject it. So they didn't give me like any percentages or anything like that, but they were like, we're so glad that you came, because if I did not have that food poisoning, I wouldn't have known. It might have just been a thing where I don't know.
Right. So if, you know, there's a chance it wasn't food poisoning, but maybe food poisoning was a symptom of
that's what they said.
issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all in that same area,
right.
You know, like
your body can't digest it because everything's fucked up in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
well, I'm glad you're okay. Sounds very traumatic. What's your recovery been like? Like, when did that happen? And so like, how much time has passed?
So man, it hasn't even been that long. This is like 4 months. So this is like 4 months ago, like in May, June, July. Yeah. Like 4 months ago, my recovery was rough, very rough, because I just was not used to not being able to get up and go and do things that I wanted to do. Not that I was doing much besides sitting in front of my computer, but I just was not, I couldn't even focus. Like, I remember like I tried to do work, and it was like, after you come out of surgery, it's just, you're in the quiet of the hospital. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'll use this as an example. My husband wanted to go on a date night while I was in recovery. And so I love Bellows Lounge. They have like wonderful jollof rice down in Shockoe Bottom. And so it's a lounge. So like I didn't, you know, there's music and all of that, but they were having
Right.
like a party or something that night, and the music was so loud, and I had gone from just like deafening quiet to this loud music. And so it was like these things that I had to like relearn about myself. Like, okay, overstimulation is the thing that happens to me now that never happened before. Noises that are loud, you know, kind of like bother me now where before they didn't. So recovery has just been a series of me figuring out what works and like really checking in with myself, which is something I did not do for at least 6 years, maybe my whole life. You know, I'm still trying to
Yeah.
figure that out in therapy. So recovery now feels good because now it's like with this new position that I have, I know that my family is important. I know that my health is important. It's important for me to feel free in any position that I'm in. And so I was able to like negotiate leaving work early, having a flex schedule, like being able to finish my workday here at home, taking Mondays and Fridays off, like different like hybrid type things to really make it feel like you know, feel free, you know, and that was something that I wouldn't have even felt comfortable to speak up and say before, like to
Right.
say, hey, I need this, because I did not know my needs and I did not cater to my own needs. So I did not know how to communicate my needs to other people. A lot of the frustration that I had, like, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you, you know, I wasn't, even though I'm a great communicator when it comes to like work, for myself, I was not communicating with myself at all. So it's been a struggle. It still is a struggle sometimes. So
Yeah, I bet. So did you start your job with the school that you mentioned earlier, like in your recovery period as well?
at the tail end of it, I applied while I was still in recovery because I was like,
Okay.
you know what? I don't know. I can't go at this pace. And there's people who want to work with me and I want to work with them too. But I don't think I can go at the same pace anymore. And I had to like let my staff go because that was like another thing that I wasn't able to like keep people on during that recovery time because there was not like a lot of capital coming in.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I applied like, I think at the end of June, and then I started August 25th. So it was like kind of like, yeah, it was according to my sister who works at the same the same institution, she says they go really slow, but this job feels like it was meant for me, and I think I
Yeah.
would not have made that move back into the corporate space unless it like completely lined out like this is what I can do for the company. So
Right. And it sounds like you got incredible benefits too, to be
yeah.
able to, make those accommodations to your schedule. It's really incredible. Um,
Yeah.
gosh. So yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting, when we have these pivotal moments in our life, right? That at the time they can seem terrible. Like for me, that's my DUI. Like that
Mm.
was in 2012. It was like the biggest event for me in terms of like um me like having to take responsibility for
Yeah.
my past actions and really being held accountable to that. And then as a result of that, I had to go to court therapy, which was the first time I was in any sort of um like mental health treatment. It was in a group, but I also had one-on-one sessions with the social worker. And she like made us write letters to ourselves like towards the end of the program. Um and that was like really the first time I took a serious look at questioning like why my life had gotten to that point. And like
Mm.
I think that helped me to cultivate more of a sense of self-awareness. And thankfully I was able to continue to develop that self-awareness over the years after that.
Mm.
But it wasn't like it happened all at once. It was a gradual unfolding and
Yeah.
relearning of who I am and like who I want to be. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you've had a similar journey with that as well through this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that I think in spirituality, they call it the dark night of the soul. Like the moment where you like have to make that decision. Like, am I going to keep on going forward in this way that has brought so much pain, or am I going to move forward? So yeah. definitely.
Yeah. So you're doing this job with the institution, but you're still doing your agency on the side, correct? But you
Yeah.
scale it back much more. So it's just you again, right?
Hmm.
It started out with just you.
Yeah.
You hired on some staff to help you to continue to scale up the business, but now you scaled it back to like it's sort of the inception point.
Yeah. Oh, I
How
didn't
does
think
that
about that.
feel? Yeah.
Well, thank you for highlighting that. I didn't even think about that. Um, Thanks, Joe Fitz. I really did not even think about that, like how that happened. I feel so we just do strategies now, and I keep on saying we as if it's all of us, but it's not just me now. But I just do strategies now. So I do like one and done type things where it's like we sit down, we have a conversation, I hear your story, and then I create like this document, which basically tells you how to tell your story or the different ways that you can tell it, which platforms you can do that on, and giving you
Mhm.
even like content and ideas and things like that. And then I also do like content plans for organizations. So I'll just write out, here's the thing that you talk on this day, this day, this day. And so you kind of takes the guesswork out of it, out of content creation. So I feel good because I think managing a lot of people was fun. I loved cultivating. A lot of people who work for me now have their own marketing agencies or started their freelance career. So like that, I feel like success for sure to be able to cultivate so many people in different creative fields. And now it's just like I know that I'm not done in this space. I'm just getting started. And now that I have like the clarity, if it is time to return full time at some point, I know exactly how I'm going to do it. And I know because of all the things that I learned in the last iteration of the agency. So, so yeah, yeah. I didn't realize that I'm alone and I was alone in the beginning, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's a full circle moment. I think it's
Yeah.
really special. Some entrepreneurs who, have to scale back their business might look at it as a failure. But I
Mm,
think from, the reason for scaling it back, as well as, what you're gaining in terms of being able to take care of yourself and your family, like it just makes sense. And then it also goes back to what you were talking about earlier about just doing what's best for you
yeah.
and, having that sense of awareness of that and not really caring about what other people think.
Right, right. That was a journey to get there though, because I will say I did feel like a failure when I started looking, like sending out my resume.
Yeah,
I did. I was just like, oh, I set out to do this and it's not happening. But then over time, again, like you said, me getting to know myself, then I was just like, well, do you want to run a whole agency? Do you want to work from sun up to
right.
sundown? Like, no, you don't. So this is okay because this works for your life right now. So, and I have
Yeah.
a lot of great friends in corporate who really helped me to navigate it because it's been so long since I've been in that space. And so I have like a lot of great girlfriends who, are Black women, some of the first in their like organizations. And so they've been helping me to like navigate this new experience. But luckily, the place that I'm working is very open to diversity and to the things that make me unique. Like I interviewed with all of this behind me and they still wanted to hire me. I wear, my African clothes all the time and they still see the value. So that made me feel great.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you also do some speaking events and like in-person events. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I generally just do like workshops at conferences. I have not done like keynote speaking. I'm thinking about doing a TED Talk because I just saw that VCU is doing TED Talk X. I think you might be really great for that as well. So just putting that bug in your ear.
Send me the
Um,
info. Yeah.
yeah, I'll send you the info. But yeah, so I generally just do workshops and then just like kind of teach people how to do what I do in the agency. And I love it too, because trainings I think are important, especially when organizations are like very traditional, but they know that it's not working anymore and that they need to evolve. That's like, I'm the fix it lady for that. Like, here's the common thread between you and your whole team and your whole organization. Here's how you share it online.
Why would you say that's so important to you?
I think it's important because I always want to understand. My mom says, like, when I was born, it was just like I was looking around, like I was trying to like report back to like another planet or something. And so it's important for me to like understand what I'm seeing, understand like the mission and values, like even the way that I like purchase things, like is really important. Like I'll be like, okay, well, what do they believe in? Or like, does this support the life that I'm trying to have if I'm like purchasing from them? And so I think that when I think about the importance of what I do, just understanding and helping other people find clarity in their own lives is helpful. I think in another life, I might have been a psychologist, maybe, or someone that just like is able to pull things out so that you can like understand. And yeah, just like a innate feeling of understanding that I just feel like I have to have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to pivot a little bit to talk a bit about your routine and mindset. What does your morning routine look like these days?
Yeah. So my morning routine this day, I realized that I have to get up earlier. So like I'm a morning person, but I like a slow morning. And so if I want to have a slow morning, I kind of have to get up at like 5:36. And so I usually I wake up and I drink water, and then I also do something which I'll share on your podcast because it's called Evolve Podcast. I have an
Yeah.
ancestor altar where I just like pay homage to my ancestors, talking to them, giving them gifts, things like that. And so I water myself and then I water the ancestors. So, just give them some water, give them some coffee. Then yoga is a huge part of my recovery. I was not into yoga before, even though I was around it with all of my clients. I never actually physically got on the mat. And so now that's what I do. I do like 15 minutes. And that's the thing. I used to think that you had to do like 50 minutes or have like an hour. But if you have YouTube, there's like people who have 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute, little sessions. So I do that. Then I journal. Journaling is really important to me. It's just like, I call it, my therapist actually calls it journal meditation. So that's like part of my meditation, an active meditation where I'm just like writing out my day, like what I'm thinking about, like any anxiousness that I have, I'm getting that out on the page. Then I get my daughters ready for school, or I wake them up. Me and my husband go walk the dogs. We live kind of close to Bird Park, so we'll just like walk them around. I've been hugging trees lately, which is new in the recovery, where I learned about how like trees have like such this connection to us, and they like literally want us to connect with their energy. And I guess like maybe a long time ago, like generations before us, like people were really connected to the trees. So I have a tree named Kofun, and I kind of like, just see it, hang out with it, do some deep breaths, like hold on to it, do some deep breaths and like connect with the energy. And then I go to work, and I've been using e-scooters, which I think are the coolest thing. When I was in college, I wanted a Vespa. And so this is like the next best thing. And I haven't cracked my skull yet. So
So do you have your own, or do you rent one of the ones that are just out there on the street?
Oh, I rent them, but I am going to purchase one for sure. Because now that I found out, I thought that they were like very expensive, but they're not that expensive. Like about 300, you can get a good one, like just like getting a bike.
Yeah.
$300, $400.
Probably
So
save you a little bit of money there with some upfront, investment, but
yeah.
worth it if you plan on using it a lot. But that's cool. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I also really enjoy doing yoga. I started developing more of an at-home yoga practice through the pandemic. I enjoyed doing yoga, but I wasn't doing it very consistently. So I did a couple of yoga with Adrian's 30-day yoga challenges, and that definitely helped. And I also signed up for training and nutrition program. And one of the things that my coach recommended me do is practice yoga every day, just without question. It's good recovery from workouts, and it's also just a good like slow flow strength build for the recovery days, which were typically on the weekends. And I don't do it every day now since I finished that program, but I do try and fit it into my schedule as much as I can. On my work computer, instead of lunch breaks, I have yoga breaks.
I
I
love that.
have 30 minutes to do those, but I only typically like do about 15 or 20 minutes because I also got to walk the dog too.
Yeah,
Uh, but that's a really good like mental reset for me to take some time away from the computer and just reconnect with my body, reconnect with my breath.
yeah,
It's definitely been helpful for me in managing my depression and anxiety, in addition
yeah.
to taking medication, and talking to my therapist about it. But it is really great for mental health, as I'm sure you can relate to that too.
Yeah, definitely. My anxiety is like so much lower because you
Yeah.
just have to, in addition to like the words that they say, just like the movement and the breath that like, because I feel like a lot of times we're just not breathing and that's why we're anxious because we're not letting some of that go. So yeah, I can feel a difference when I don't do yoga.
Yeah, definitely. And
Absolutely.
I've branched out from yoga with Adrienne, even though she's great. I've found other people on YouTube that I enjoy. Ariana Elizabeth is another
Oh,
one.
I'm doing her sun salutation challenge right now. Yes, I love
Okay,
her.
sweet. Yeah, I really like her style and aesthetic as well. She's really
Yeah.
great.
I
Um, yeah, go ahead.
Black there's one named Black Yogi Nico. She's like a DJ in St. Louis. She does really great ones too. And then Zood Yoga, XUDE Yoga. Those two and Ariana Elizabeth, those are like I rotate them all the way around.
Okay, I'll check them out.
Yeah.
Thanks for the Rex.
Yeah.
Um, and so in terms of like getting up early and walking the dogs and doing everything you need to do, like that's really great that you were able to have that discipline to have that time for yourself. I'm sure it's not always easy waking up at 5 a.m.
Mm-mm. It's
especially
not.
with kids, in the house too.
Yeah.
But it's really great to be able to take that time for yourself if you can. I really wish I was more of a morning person, so it was easier for me to wake up earlier.
Yeah.
But that is a little bit harder for me. So I'm only like I'm only giving myself like 30 minutes to get up and then walk the dogs before I gotta start working. But yeah, taking that yoga break is really crucial for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am I'm a morning person like normally, but like this is new. Like it's re-emerging to me being a morning person because before I was up so many hours of night, I wasn't even,
Yeah.
yeah. So like getting on a schedule and the morning routine really helped me. That's one thing that came over from the recovery because I was not doing this prior at all. In no shape or form did I have a morning routine prior to this.
Right. And I know sleep is very important just to overall health as well as to recovery.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your sleep schedule has changed a lot, as a result of your recovery as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I am dead tired by like 9 o'clock. It's like I have to shut my eyes soon.
Yeah, I relate to that too. Sometimes I even get tired a little earlier, and my fiance makes fun of me for it, but it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
So in addition to yoga, do you do any other type of workout to help you with your recovery?
So I started doing like little 15, I have like these long band resistance bands, not like the small ones, but like the really long ones.
Yeah,
And so I do like a little 15-minute like workouts like 3 to 5 times a week. I'm thinking about also getting into boxing because I'm kind of near title boxing. And I was like,
yeah,
I think that would be like a really fun thing to do in the morning. But I'm really working out wise only like 15 minutes a day because I think that I like to inch my way into things because if I go, I'm the type of person I want to go hard, I want to go in, but that leads to burnout really quickly. So I'm like,
sure.
let me do this little 15 minutes until I get to the point where I'm like, hey, let me do 30, let me do 45. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, and I'm sure your body appreciates you like easing into it too, as you're building strength and stamina from this thing that happened to you.
yeah,
but hopefully that is helping to help you feel better and stronger and have more endurance, so you can go for longer if you choose to.
Yeah,
And I imagine with boxing, I know it can be a very high intensity workout, so
yeah,
it's definitely something you want to build up to.
right, for sure. I'm one class a week, maybe. Yeah.
Sweet. Do you have any habits that you practice that help you to stay productive, remember new ideas, or add value to your life? And if so, what are they?
So one thing I love to do is just like writing that like lists. I'm like a huge list person. So like doing like a brain dump before I do like my journaling session in the morning about like stuff that I need to get done so I could just like get it out the way. That really, really helps me stay focused. I tried the Pomodoro method, which is like 25 minutes on like focus work and then 5-minute breaks. But I found that to be like a little bit too short for me, because like sometimes like a lot of what I do is also research. So researching could take 30 minutes and I haven't even like actually gotten to the deep work.
Right.
So I saw something that I found on Instagram was like 90 minutes and then take a 30-minute break and then do like 2 to 3 of those a day. So that's kind of been the pace that I've been going out. That helps me to stay focused because I do have ADHD. I have a standing desk, which is important, which is also another thing I negotiated with the company that I'm working for, to make sure that I had a standing desk, because I'm so fidgety, just being able to like move around while I'm writing is like really, really helpful. Focus, other than that, tea. So I have a brain tea that I make. During the pandemic, I really got into like herbs and stuff, which is funny because like, herbalism is part of like health, and I had no other parts of health really outside of that. But I have a brain tea. I use ginkgo and gotu kola together with St. John's wort for depression. And that's like everyday thing that I take. And that really helps me stay focused and also mental clarity as well. So I drink tea, and yeah, those are the
I
three
didn't
things.
know that tea could help with depression. That's really interesting
Oh,
to me.
yes. Let me tell you something. As someone who also suffers with that, lemon balm tea, CBD oil, and St. John's wort, that anytime I'm depressed, I promise you, by the end of that cup, you are going to feel like 100% better. Like it's like meditation in the cup. It really
Yeah.
is.
I imagine though, if you do want to try and like have a meditation in a cup, you do have to be very intentional about drinking it. Like you can't
Yeah.
just, chug a lug it, finish it up quick. You probably won't reap as many of the benefits from that, experience if you aren't doing it intentionally, right?
Yeah, like take your time, like don't boil the herbs, because that's one thing I learned. Like when you boil it, you actually take away the nutrients. But if you just like sit it in something, steep it, and then it releases like all of
Right.
that. So yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely want to try that. That sounds interesting. I take medication for depression every day.
Mhm.
I've been doing that since October of last year, so it's almost been a full year. Well, I also, occasionally use cannabis, and I'm very interested in psilocybin because I've heard that has a lot of benefits as well. But I'd be interested in exploring other herbal treatments, such as the one you described. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. We're going to move forward into wrapping up now, but there's a few recurring segments on the podcast that we cover, starting
Okay.
with our mindset moment. What is a quote or tip that you use that inspires you to stay positive despite personal hardships?
Oh yeah, I have a personal mantra that I say. I am deserving, I am qualified, I'm empowered, I'm enough. And saying that in the mirror is really helpful, even if you're not saying it in the mirror, like just like saying it out loud. It's just like something about the vibrations always like kind of get me in alignment. So yeah.
And I know on your Instagram, you were doing like a daily affirmations challenge where you were doing it yourself, but you were also challenging other people to do it. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I there I was going through a really rough period in the business during the pandemic, like in 2021 specifically. And I just felt so low, like I could not really pull myself out of it. And I found an affirmations album that's kind of cheesy, to be honest. Like everyone's not going to love it, but I literally listened to it for a full year, and it would really help me like get pepped up for the day, because I was dealing with just like crippling anxiety where I just didn't even want to go to work, and I owned the place. Like I didn't even want to
Right.
do anything. And listening to affirmations for a year really helped me. And then I remember, when you first start doing affirmations, you're kind of like, you don't really believe it. Like you're just like, am I this? Like, am I,
Yeah.
then over time you start to believe it. And so when at the end of the year, and maybe it was like a little bit of time after that, and then the mantra came to me, I was just like, oh my goodness, now I have my own. Because I was so inspired that this woman made like a whole album, like 10 affirmations, like full songs, like 5 to 6 minute songs, affirmations type thing. And I was like, man, it would be so cool if I could do, something like that, or have my own. And it just came to me. And once I started saying it and I was telling my friends, they were like, oh, I love this. I was just like, hey, let's just say it to each other every day, or you can make your own affirmation and all of that. I ended up not doing the full 30 days, but I did make it a full year listening to affirmations. So I still feel like that's a win with that. But yeah, it's very transformative.
Did I see you contributed to an album as well?
Oh yeah, yes, I have not talked about that in a long time. So my friend Chris, which you should definitely have on the podcast if you have not already connected with him.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, Chris Jeter is his name. I'll send you his information. He has a whole album that is affirmations based, and it's really wonderful. And he was just like, hey, can you help me with like the opening? And I did it. I did it literally like 5 minutes before the studio session was supposed to end, but it worked out pretty well. So yeah, there's a recording. Thank you for reminding me. It's sometimes I forget some of the things that I do. I think we all do that. Like we forget
Yeah.
until like we either sit in stillness and we're like, hey, I really have done some amazing things. Or, someone like you or your friend is just like, hey, you really have done some amazing things. Like I didn't think of that. So thank you. I completely
Yeah,
forgot about that.
absolutely. I'm glad I saw that so I could remind you of it.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I mean, I definitely relate to that too. I've used affirmations in the past to help me get through moments of feeling low, and whether I was recognizing I was feeling depressed or anxious, or just having a bad day. And yeah, sometimes you don't believe it, but I think even when you are feeling sad, or especially when you're feeling sad and low, it is important to give yourself those reminders, because um, those moments won't last, they will pass. And
Yeah.
it's important that we talk kindly to ourselves so that we can set ourselves up for success when we are feeling better. And
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I try and practice. I don't do daily affirmations, but when I'm meditating, or after yoga, when I'm in shavasana, or even like in the middle of my yoga practice, like I'll affirm something about myself, which helps me to bring my presence back to the present moment, and feel more connected with myself.
Yeah. And when those affirmations click, they click. Like once you're like, yeah, like it's like it feels really good.
Absolutely. Yes. Next is PMA Warrior of the Week. Who is someone who inspires you to keep a positive mental attitude?
Ah, inspires me to keep a positive. My children, for sure. I think all of the good things that have happened in my life have happened because, kids don't care and they don't have a filter and they're going to tell you about yourself.
Yes.
And I think knowing that my children saw me not taking care of myself, and that they I wasn't in a place to receive them sharing that with me. But I remember one time I was taking in recovery, my youngest daughter, Yaya, she's 9. She like drew me a bath. She like made a bath and she was like, I made this bath for you because you don't always honor yourself and you need to. Yeah. And I was
Wow.
like, first of
Okay.
all, I didn't even know she had that word usage, like, like honor yourself, that a 9-year-old like knows what it means to honor yourself, or that she saw that I wasn't honoring myself. And I was like, man. So now like when I take a bath or I take care of myself, I'll be like, hey, I took a bath today, or I'm about to take a bath. And she'll be like, good for you, mommy. Good for you. So definitely my kids, because they tell it like it is and they really make sure that I stay on track. And I would even say my dogs too, because they're like kind of an extension.
Yeah, right.
of
They're
me.
kids, basically.
Yeah, like even if they're just whimpering and just being like, hey, we need to go outside, or like nudging, like my I have a Labradoodle who he'll like nudge my arm away from the computer and just be like, hey, it's time for pets, and those moments are the things that like I need. So
Yeah, I've been there. My dog does that all the time too.
yeah.
But gosh, what a powerful moment with your daughter. Like that feels like something divine, whether you believe that or not. That's definitely a special moment for sure. And whether that's coming from her or from someplace else, it's a powerful message
Yeah.
regardless. Super cool.
Yeah.
And lastly is good food, good mood. What's one of your go-to meals that helps you to feel your best?
So I have these things that I love to make called glow bowls, which is like basically regular food that I would eat, but I just put it on a bed of kale.
Uh-huh.
And so I love to make like glow bowls. Like today I had like I got one from Elwood. It's like a udon bowl, like it was udon noodles, but then it had like peas and carrots and just so many good things, and then like tofu and a wonderful sauce. So I love I love kale, and I love green leafy green stuff, and just like having that. Yes, I love a good loaded huge kale salad.
And what would you put in your like dream kale salad?
I would put, well, it would be from Roots. Let's start there,
They're
because
great. Yeah.
let's start there. The Southern without cheddar cheese, like that is, I can eat that every day, morning, noon, and night, and like I wouldn't get tired of it. Like,
Right. Yeah,
I
I'm vegan and I love the Southern as well. I also, take the cheese out, of course, because no dairy.
yeah,
But they'll usually throw in sweet potatoes as well, or you
yes,
can get it customized to make it vegan with sweet potatoes, um, or like put in some avocado, and that's like one of my go-tos from them. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love the whole bowl craze, like where you're like basically making salads fun. Yeah, love it with it.
Yeah, and I've definitely adopted that at home too, where like, I'm putting in rice, kale or spinach, and then, some type of protein source. Usually it's tofu, or something else that I've cooked up.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just super fast and easy. It's relatively affordable.
yeah.
So yeah, sweet. So if people want to connect with you and follow you on your journey, where can they find you?
Well, I mean, I guess technically you can find me at at Young Kef on Instagram, even though it's it's locked right now.
Right.
You can find me there, and then Kef and Co. I'm planning on like blogging a little bit more, because I think I really do need to talk more about my journey and just like share with people, because storytelling. So look out for a future blog soon, sometime this year. But Young Kefa right now. I don't have anything to promote anymore.
And what's your website?
It's kevinco.com.
And your blog will be on that website?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, sweet. Thank you very much, Kenda. Great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is great.
My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks for checking out our podcast. I hope you got a lot out of it. and it was helpful for you in your personal growth journey. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please do so on your preferred podcast provider. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Stay blessed and keep the PMA. Later.